Hey, BassGeek here, and today I'm going to tell you about some of my favorite soft plastic rigs for bedding largemouth and smallmouth. Hey, BassGeek Nation, we are back in the dungeon. I hope to be back on the water hopefully tomorrow and maybe for the next 3 to 4 days. I got a little time off right here. I hope everybody out there is safe. I hope you are all in good health and keep it that way. I think we're about to get through this thing, fingers crossed. I do want to give a big shout out to the guys like me, the IT guys that are working in the data field, that are keeping these websites up, and you know, all the linemen and any of you guys that work to keep us all connected as I do. I want to give a big shout out to all you, along with all of the first responders and the nurses, doctors, anybody that's still working out there. Stay safe. Now, speaking of going fishing, guys, I don't know how many of you all know this, but I really strive in my fishing videos to make them about breaking down that particular day. So not just going around fishing the same old spots that I fish, but actually trying to locate fish every single day. I treat every day like a practice. And I give that information to you because I know a lot of us only get to fish on average about 1 day a week. So guys, it's not just highlight reels of me catching fish. I'm trying to show you what to look for in the winter, the post-spawn, the pre-spawn, the spawn, the summer. So make sure you go out there. Even for you guys that pond fish, river fish, you can learn a lot from these videos in the types of areas that I'm looking for, and even in the seasonal movements of the bass. So there's a ton of stuff. I put out some really good videos, fishing videos here the last few weeks, and I don't show you always, like I said, it's not a highlight reel of me catching fish, okay? That's not what I'm here to do. If I have a great day, so be it. But I don't think most of us go out and clock 30 a day. Heck, most days in my area, 10 fish are tough to come by. And sometimes 5 are tough to come by. So anyway, go check them out, guys. See how I break down the lakes and my mindset. I share all that information with you. I show you even the baits that I progress through and what I try and what I eliminate. Okay, that all being said, let's get to this video. So let's talk about smallmouth first, and there's really 2 rigs that I use for smallmouth that are my go-to. So let's talk about the first and probably my favorite, but not by much, and that is the Flick Shake. Now, the weighted wacky or the Flick Shake is what generally this is called. And let me tell you why I don't just use a regular wacky rig setup. When I know they're on the bed, I want that bait to sit in the bed. I want it to sit there. I want to just shake it, you know, shake that slack and really make that wacky rig kind of pulsate, piss them off, right? I want it to drag through that bed and look like something rooting around in it, looking for their eggs. So that's why I like the weighted wacky. Now this weighted wacky right here, I think this is a mustad, literally weighted wacky. It's also called the Flick Shake. And I'll tell you the baits that I like, but you don't have to use this. This is a 1/8. That's kind of my go-to. But a couple years back on Cumberland, I was fishing as a co-angler. And as a co-angler, you know, you really don't want to bring a whole bunch of stuff with you. So what I ended up doing was, I knew I was going to fish a Ned rig also, so I just brought my Ned heads. You can use them the same way. They make them with the little weed guard on there. You just wacky rig them and use them. I love these because they're a little heavier than most of the stuff you're going to get for the weighted wackies. And again, I want them to stay in contact with the bottom. So what are my favorite worms? Now there's a ton of worms out there you can use. You can use Robo worms. I've used them. They work great. You can use the Zoom Finesse, the Zoom Trick. There's a ton of worms out there that you can use. But these are my two go-to when I'm using that weighted wacky. This is the Holston ST worm. And this is one of my favorite colors. This is bold bluegill. This is my other favorite worm. Now this worm is pretty big. It's 7 and change, I believe. And this is one of my other favorite colors. These are my two go-to colors, the Morning Dawn and the bold bluegill. This is called the Trip worm. Now, the reason I like these two, this is a little more finesse. This, I can actually cut down to this, and you guessed it, one of the reasons why I like it is because it's got a little more girth to it. So everybody take your drink. There you have it. But those are generally my two go-to. And the reason why I like Bass Munitions so much is that there's no salt. He uses no salt. Love Z-Man stuff, but they're lying to you guys. They're not the only worms that float. As a matter of fact, this is my favorite floating worm. Generally, I have to put about a 5/0 hook on it to get it to sink at 7 inches, the way I want it on the sink rate. So it takes a little bit of weight to get those to sink. So basically what I'm saying is when you hook these, they'll float up like that when they're on the bed. That's awesome, because that's really going to tick off that smallmouth. Like I said, I keep it real simple as far as the colors. And these are it. The bold bluegill and the Morning Dawn. If they ain't biting those, I go to my next rig. My next rig, pretty easy, the Ned Rig. Now this is one of my favorite colors. This is Z-Man's bubblegum. I love the bubblegum color. And I'm going to tell you a little bit when they're on the bed. I'm going to show you a little something. You'll notice that's not the Z-Man Finesse mushroom head. It comes way up. And one of the things that I'll do sometimes is actually cut this about 3/4 of an inch so that that hook comes even farther out the tail, because they're not really worried about action. I'm not worried about action. I just want this to sit in the bed and set up and piss those smallmouth off. So the head I like to use is the Z-Man Power Finesse. Now these are actually designed for the longer TRDs, the longer baits. But when they're in the bed, I don't want those smallmouth picking that up by the tail and carrying it off that bed. I want them to get hooked. And that helps a ton. So like I said, a little trick, maybe cut off a 1/2 inch, 3/4 inch. It'll make the hookup ratio even better for you. Now, what baits do I like to use? Well, I've already told you, I like the Z-Man's good old traditional turd, TRD. Another bait that I've really caught on to this year, and that is the Sakushi bug. And I like that because it's got a little bit of, it kind of looks like a crawdad with its pinchers, kind of bit off. The next one, of course, we go back to Bass Munitions. Now, sometimes these are the 3-inch and they work great, but sometimes I want, again, a little more girth. So I'll take the 5-inch, and what I'll do is I'll just cut it off, right here about mid egg sac, or even slightly toward that much. Again, if I want the hook sticking out. Again, these will float. Colors, you've pretty much seen the colors. A foot of water visibility, really overcast skies. Clear water. Green pumpkin is my go-to. Now, other than that, I'm going with bold bluegill and Morning Dawn. That bold bluegill, that is a go-to color. Probably my 3 go-tos right there on the Ned Rig. Now, as far as the size of head, I want to keep contact bottom. 99.9% of the time, the 1/5 ounce head is what I'm going with. On the others, it's a 1/8, 3/16, on the flick shake, to a 1/4. 90% of the time, I'm going to stay in that 1/8 realm. So that's the two rigs. Let me show you what I like to throw them on, the setup. All right, so make sure you go out and check out TRC. Guys, it keeps your investment safe. And this is a custom rod here by Fish Sticks. Again, links will be in the description, so you can go to Fish Sticks and get this. I'm not sponsored by them or anything. Don't get anything for free. I paid for this rod myself, and I really like it. This rod is generally the rod that I'm going to use for my heavier baits. So, you know, my heavier Ned Rigs, my heavier flick shakes, and in a minute you'll see kind of what else I use it for with largemouth bass. But this is a Fish Sticks rod. It is a 7-foot. It is a medium fast action. Love this rod. It's been great so far this year. Now the reel, this is the new higher end offering from Lew's. This is the Custom Pro Speed Spool. And guys, this thing is amazing so far. I can't say anything bad about it. Now, how do I rig it up? I use Power Pro. I do use some cheap backing. I fill the spool about halfway up with that. And then I use Power Pro. I don't remember what it's called. It's like Super Slick or something like that. I don't remember what it's called, but it's a Power Pro High Vis Yellow. And then I string it with about 15 to 20 feet of 8-pound test fluorocarbon. Now this is for my lighter setups. This is a Dixie Custom rods. This is Dixie Custom, and this is actually the 3B Tightline and Special. It is a medium moderate fast action, and this is great for like that 1/8 that I was telling you about with the flick shake. Something, you know, a quarter down, 1/8. Those lighter, I like to use it on my Ned Rigs when I'm using those lighter ones. Like I said, this is a Dixie Custom, the 3B Tightline Special. Now this reel is new to Lew's. This is the new Speed Spin. So far, I've been really impressed with it. It's kind of their, I don't remember what it comes in, but it's right around 50 bucks. Really good reel for the offering. Really good looking reel too. Smooth drag, but this is the combo I use. Again, I put some cheap braid on as backing, fill the spool about halfway up, go with my Power Pro, whatever it is, like Slick, whatever, I don't even remember. Again, it'll be in the description. And again, 8-pound test. Sometimes I'll go down to 6 to 8-pound test, especially if the water's clear. Fluorocarbon, and generally I'm going to have about 15 to 20 feet of that before I get to my Power Pro High Vis Yellow. So that's most of the time my flick shakes. Now guys, when it comes to smallmouth, one thing you've got to remember is that I'm fishing southern smallmouth, highland reservoirs. So they're a lot different than those smallmouth that you see up north, you know, New York, Michigan, those types of places. Now that doesn't mean that what you're seeing me use in for the smallmouth down here won't work up there. As a matter of fact, you might want to try it because a lot of people may not be using these same sort of tactics up there. Much in the way that a lot of people aren't using the same sort of tactics down here. So a lot of times you can, you know, kind of hit on something that's a little different than what everybody else is doing. Now, let's jump into largemouth. And when it comes to largemouth, guys, again, my two favorite baits, and it's really this simple. My two favorite baits, it comes down to number one being a stick bait. That simple. Soft plastic, stick bait, whatever you want to call it. If you want to call it a Cinco or a Dinger or a, you know, Snot Rocket, I don't care what you want to call it. But anyway, basically a soft plastic stick bait. Now, I will rig a soft plastic stick bait 3 different ways. Number one is probably the most popular way, and I've got a really good video that we did last year. I'll try and put it up here with me and my buddy Joey. One of my favorite ways to rig it is, of course, the wacky rig. Now, this is a time when I will not use something like the weighted wacky rig. It's not that I won't use it at all on a weight, but 90% of the time, smallmouth will spawn out deeper. I've seen largemouth spawn out deeper, but most of the time, largemouth are a little more lethargic. Smallmouth spots, they've just got bad attitudes. And so something jumps in their bed, they're going to go kill it. Largemouth, they're kind of like, do-de-do-de-do, what's that, partner? You know what I'm saying? Sometimes they just going to go over and kill it. Sometimes they want to look at it for 3 hours. So, unweighted, something that's really going to fall and stay right in their face and just really annoy the crap out of them, a lot of times when it comes to largemouth, is what I'm looking for. So, when they're super shallow, I love my bass munitions. And this is a color that my buddy Joey turned me on to last year when he thrashed me on my home top secret Lake P. And this is from Bass Munitions. I don't know what we're going to call this just yet. But guys, that brings me to something else. Guys, if you see these colors and they're not on Bass Munitions website, well, number one, that's really my fault. Number two, we won't talk about that. But number two, send Richard an email. Right on the website, he's got an email and his phone number. The guy is fun as hell to talk to, so make sure you go give him a call. You know, he's sitting there making baits all day long, and trust me, he appreciates you guys calling and talking a little bit of fishing about him and being excited about his baits, especially when you see them here. But this is a play on camo, but not quite. Richard told me what he was going to call this color. But man, this is a custom color that Joey had made for him. Kind of told me to go have it made. And I'm telling you, it is a color that it mimics every kind of sunfish you could ever imagine. And so I don't know exactly what he's going to call that. But just when you get a hold of Richard, tell him that it is the BassGeek special or the camo BassGeek something. He'll know what you're talking about. I'll tell him. The next color, and again, the great thing about his baits are they're extremely durable versus these baits. A ton of salt in these baits, you guys know that. But, you know, I love them. If they're a little deeper, this bait right here, you can go with a lighter wire hook and you can drop it, as opposed to this bait. This bait is very durable. You don't even have to put an O-ring on this sucker. You better put 2 O-rings on this sucker. But this bait is going to have a much slower fall rate. So if those bass are really up there, backs out of the water, so to speak, definitely this. Now you can put a weight on it, like a weighted wacky or a heavier wire hook, and mimic the same fall. So, you know, there's just uses for both, as I always say. Now, this is a couple of colors that one of my buddies turned me on to last year. This is their version of a bold bluegill, and that's the 4-inch. I like this color too. It's a laminate, white and green, which again, you can get from a lot of different makers. And guys, probably one of my go-to when it comes to, you know, whether it be Bass Munitions or, you know, Yamamoto's green pumpkin black flake. I mean, that's just a go-to color right there. Very honestly, these two colors right here are probably my go-to. So, another color, I don't have it in the bigger ones. You get into a little bit dirtier water, but something just to break it up, and it's that green pumpkin sky color. And of course, you've done seen, but the bold bluegill version by Bass Munitions. So that's really the colors that I'm going to use 90% of the time. Few more colors here, but like I said, if I had to pick 2, I fish a lot of clear water. This this camo color and just your regular old standard green pumpkin. And on a cloudy day, a lot of times I might throw a watermelon red. Generally tends to be what I'm going for. Now, rigging. I'm going to rig them 2 ways. Wacky rig, weightless. And, you know, guys, I really don't have a preference. It really depends on the fall rate. You know, sometimes I'm going to rig it with a wacky rig. Sometimes I'm going to rig it with a weedless wacky rig hook. You know, the circle hooks. And I've used everything from VMC to mustads to gamakatsus, you name it. I mean, I've used it, and I like them all. Don't really have a preference. Sometimes I'm going to go up to, you know, just a regular, like a flipping hook, or even, you know, to get a little faster fall rate out of them, or even an off-shank worm hook, you know, that's a little heavier to get a little fall rate out of them. If I'm doing that, a lot of times I kind of like to go to like a EWG. Got a little more bend, so when you're hooking that worm in there, you got a little more gap to set that hook. But again, that's a whole nother video talking about fall rate of stick baits, okay? So, but that's the first way, and 90% of the time I'm not going to rig them, especially for largemouth. I'm not going to rig them with any kind of weight. The second way is kind of the same way, and this is when I'm throwing it around some cover. I'm going to rig it Texas style. No weight. I've put it on a 3 to 4/0 EWG, and these are all fives that I'm using, 5-inch stick baits. I'm going to rig it on a 5/0 Texas rig, and that's how I'm going to throw it. It's a little more weedless. You can skip it great. You can get it back in and around docks, and I mean, you can skip it great wacky rig too, but I'm telling you, weedless, and it really falls perfectly too, so it doesn't really alter the fall rate when you rig it that way. I rig it with an EWG just how I like it. It's how Gary designed it to be rigged. It's how I rig it. Now, last but not least is on a flipping stick. Now, this is when I think they're in heavy cover. You kind of seen me do this on some videos last year, but I was flipping a Cinco, and I'm telling you, I'm going to rig it on 20-pound test. It's going to be on a flipping hook, so a heavy wire, something like a gamakatsu, whoever your favorite straight shank flipping hook is, that's where I'm going to go, and I'm going to flip it. I like that in clear water around cover when I'm flipping in just some of the heaviest stuff. And a lot of times what you'll target in those cases are just like, I have a lot of wood, but you'll target that open spot between 2 logs that's maybe about that far, you know, because those eggs have to get sun, so that's where they'll spawn. Gives them a little protection, makes them feel protected, but it's also, you know, open. So that's the type of areas you want to look for those beds. And a lot of times I'll blind flip to a lot of those places and pull those fish out. Did a real good video last year showing that with a Cinco. All right, so this is my high end. We talked about this combo just a minute ago. This is my Lose Custom Pro Speed Spin. Love that reel. And I'm going to, you know, combo it with my fish sticks. This is a medium fast action. That's what I'm going to throw my wacky rig. That's what I'm going to throw my Texas rig weightless on right here. Again, generally I'm going to go 8 to 10 pound test. If I'm throwing that Texas rig and I'm throwing around a little more cover, I'm going to go maybe 10 to 12. Okay, 10 to 12. And what's great about this setup with the high vis is that you can swap that leader pretty quickly. Again, and so the high vis Yellow Power Pro, I didn't tell you this earlier, it is 20-pound test braid as my main line. Okay, so 20-pound test. You can go 15, you can even go 10. I like the 20, works good for me. Now, as far as flipping goes, again, guys, check out TRC. As far as flipping goes, guys, this is my flipping stick. This is the meat stick by Dixie Custom. It's a 7.7 heavy fast action. Now I put 20-pound test. I use P-line on this, 100% fluoro, but I have Power Pro braid, the green, the real rough stuff, in case I get around any sort of vegetation. And that is 65-pound test. I'll use 20 to 25-pound test when I'm just flipping timber. I do not like the sound of braid coming across timber, and it will saw into some of the bark around bushes and that sort of stuff and get you hung or fray your line. So that's why anytime, the only time I'm flipping straight braid is around grass. That's it. But like I said, this is the Dixie Pro or Dixie Customs meat stick 7.7 heavy fast action. Now I've got that coupled. This is the Tournament MP. This is a new reel, and so far I've really dug it from Lew's, and I think I've got this on a 7.5 to 1. So like I said, that is the Tournament MP 7.5 to 1 new reel. It has done an incredible job. Now this is a bait, it's pretty much straightforward flipping. So I am taking this bait and putting it in the same sort of places where I'm going to put the Cinco when I'm flipping it. But it's a little different bait. These are the Grunt by Bass Munitions and the Structure Bug. So the Structure Bug turned me on to this little bait several years ago. Guys, this is an incredible bait, and one of the things that I want to show you and what's amazing about this bait is when you hold it like this, it very much looks like a small bluegill profile. You know, you've got your fins, your dorsal, your peck, and your tail. Well, it's probably my favorite bait to flip now. I've done so well on it, but the biggest problem with it is that nose. That nose really tears up easy, and I mean, not even catching fish. So my buddy, I kind of complained about it, and my buddy Richard at Bass Munitions came out with this. Now this has got a lot meatier head to it. So it's perfect for flipping. And I mean, you cannot tell the difference. I mean, look at that. Look at the action between both of them. Guys, the action is spot on. And again, got a great video last year where I lit them up. And my favorite color is watermelon red. That color works so good in such an array of watercolors. My buddy Michael Fields was flipping it even in dirty water last year, or a couple years back, and was stroking them out on one of my favorite lakes to fish, Top Secret Lake Inn. Now, if the water gets real muddy, if we're talking about a foot or less, my go-to color is June Bug. But other than that, it's this right here, watermelon red. Now, I do want to show you something that I do. And this is a zoom marker. You can tell it's old as the hills. Something that I do, especially once I see those small bluegills up and running the shallows, you know, you'll see them, especially in that clear water, they'll have just that touch of chartreuse on the tail. So one of the things that I love to do is just take and put a touch of chartreuse literally right on the lip of this bait. Now that's it. I don't go up high. I literally want there to be just a tiny line of it. I'm going to go ahead and sign out. Don't cut it off. The winners will be announced afterwards, and we'll call it a day. As always, questions, comments in the comment section below. You guys know I love to talk fishing with you. Make sure you ring that bell, guys. Make sure you're watching these videos. Tell your friends about them. Share them out. If you don't care, pretty please share these videos so that we can keep growing. We are almost, we should hit it today to 30,700. That's insane. Like it if you like it. Don't forget to subscribe. And you guys rock. All right, here we are on the buzzbait video. Let's highlight that and copy it. Get to our random comment picker. We'll paste that in. $244 random comments. Thanks, guys. Hope you guys continue to watch. Let's see who won. All right, Denver.bites.fishing. At BassGeek, thank you so much for what you do and you've shown. Thank you very much for watching. Clearly, 1,000 of us anglers again. Confident every day. Great video. Would love to win the MTB. You did. Thanks for what you do. Hashtag booyah. So awesome. I will comment on the buzzbait video, let you know that you won. You will need to send me your address via my email, bassgeek.biteme@gmail.com. All that information will be out there. I'll also pin a link on the video that's coming out, this video, as it comes out today. All right, Denver Bites Fishing, congratulations.